Let's talk about the elephant in the room.
Let's talk about the elephants in the room.
COVID-19.
It is 2020. And while, yes, healthcare has been on this evolution of digital transformation as an industry for some time now, the game's kind of changing this year in a lot of ways. So I think it'd be good to talk a little bit about what is changing for healthcare consumers. So I'll start with the obvious one, right? More and more U.S. consumers are using digital tools to find and receive care. We're paying our bill online more. We're logging into our patient portal more. We're using these digital solutions more this year than we ever have before.
I think that was a big question mark. Was okay, we're going to throw all these digital tools now. We're going to shift our patients from this legacy mode of coming into the office whenever they need anything to we're going to do everything virtually here.
Right.
We're going to do it digitally. And the good news is it's gone pretty well.
Yeah.
Most patients seem to dig it. And I've been one of those,
With those tools is pretty high.
Yeah, right? Generally pretty high, higher than I think most people expected, including us.
Historically, physicians tend to see their relationships with patients as pretty episodic. But that now, in this paradigm we're in, using all these digital tools more frequently, they're feeling a much more extended relationship with their patients than they had previously.
Now that we're all more healthcare focused and more well-being focused, there's a great opportunity for health systems to serve customers in a more holistic way. And the great benefit of this technology is it enables that, right? It enables providers and patients to interact and connect on a 365-day basis versus this one time a year kind of episode.
All right, Bryce. So I think one question we should probably talk a little bit about, especially in light of how much is different and changing this year due to this global pandemic and the increasing adoption of digital tools in healthcare by patients, by customers, is just when I'm going to ask you to get your crystal ball out for a moment. When we look ahead, let's call it 5 years. There's your crystal ball. When we look ahead 5 years, it's out there that way.
Yeah.
What I'll say, customer-facing digital technology, do you think will have the biggest impact on the healthcare industry? I realize we're completely prognosticating here, and I'm actually going to make this harder on you. I'm going to eliminate the easy answer, which would be telehealth and virtual visits. I think it's pretty clear that this year is an inflection point for virtual visits in particular. Deregulation has enabled that. Adoption is increasing, and so many consumers in this country have now had telehealth appointments, or their kids have had telehealth appointments, and they've realized this is actually pretty good for a lot of use cases in healthcare. Yeah. For a lot of sort of especially more routine care, this is a pretty good experience. And it just seems like we're already connecting wearables, doing other things to make that virtual care experience better. And it just feels like that's going to grow tremendously. And that could be a big game changer over the next 5 years. I'm going to move that off the table.
Okay. I think the next most obvious answer, and you sort of almost said it.
Did I? Okay.
It is, very similar to, it's sort of maybe a component of virtual care, virtual visits, which is the technologies that will enable home healthcare in a really significant way. Because that seems like the logical next step here, right? Okay, great. I can now, through a video chat, talk to my doctor. But that only goes so far without a bunch of diagnostic devices attached to you. And the stuff that you do when you're in the office with a physician. And there's already a lot of momentum around people just being able to, especially more elderly people, being able to receive care in their home, not have to travel long distances. This is really important in rural areas like the one we're in. Yep. Being able to put the devices in the home of the patient so that they can remotely get care and manage their care. So I think that's a really obvious one, and I think something that's going to explode if you watch where investments happen in digital health over the next 5 years. There's going to be a ton of it in how do we grab the momentum of virtual care, virtual visits, and tack on all these other logical extensions of that to make it a holistic healthcare experience that can be delivered in the home.
Something more than just a Zoom chat with your doctor.
I think that's a pretty obvious one, and we're already down that path. There folks are concerned about the regulation coming back, and
yes, we get a lot of questions about that.
Providers not getting reimbursed for these types of visits. I'm not too concerned about it, honestly, just because I think we're going to be living with this pandemic for more than a year. It's going to be a few years where we're still going to be in some form of this, and it's just going to require continuous focus on virtual care, and that's the consumers alone are going to demand it. So that represents just a new paradigm for how care gets paid for. A not obvious answer, going back to the original question of what digital tool or sort of technology is going to be the biggest game changer in the next 5-10 years, is the electronic medical record.
Oh, okay.
System.
So that's that newfangled thing.
EMRs.
No, explain. What do you thinking here?
I obviously EMRs became a big deal with the Affordable Care Act, meaningful use, and became a requirement, for every healthcare provider out there, that they needed to track everything digitally with the vision of interoperability and being able to, at some point, be able to easily share and transfer data from provider to provider and, sort of carry your data with you. And the reason I think, obviously, that's made a huge impact over the past 10 plus years. And I think it's going to continue to make a huge impact because when you look at some of the investments that these big technology companies are making, I think Apple's probably the most obvious one, with their Care Kit and Research Kit and Health Kit, and also their investment in the iPhone being the hub for consumer health. It's going to have really interesting implications on where the EMR sits in the equation for consumers and their interactions and their relationship with their healthcare providers. And it's going to, I think, evolve a ton in the next 5 to 10 years. And how it evolves is going to have a huge impact on how we, see our data, interact with our health, and how that supports everything that we're talking about, whether it's home health and virtual visits and everything else.
So just to play that back for you, EMRs have been around for years. It's not a new technology per se, but if I'm reading you right, historically, it's pretty much been a back office tool for providers, right? But what you see looking forward is EMRs having an even more meaningful impact on the healthcare consumer, right?
Yeah, and specifically the organizations that get it right and figure out how to use it as a tool that can yield really great customer experiences. I think back to banking again. One of the things that they did is they were good at they did a good job of taking these legacy systems and adapting them to support a much more innovative, digital-oriented customer experience. And healthcare is at that same inflection point now. How do we take the electronic medical record system, the EMR, the EHR, and use it to serve our need in becoming a digitally transformed business and support a really great customer experience?
Yeah.
I think that tool alone is going to have the biggest impact, positive or negative, on the customer experience for you and me over the next 5 years.